This is episode 188 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm your host, Dion Morales, and today I'm joined by Marcel, living within the meaning of life, Manzano.
For the next 360 days, it turns out.
Will, the Bandolier Cavalier Hagewood.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm the Chewbacca now.
And Ryan, 2021 is about the hype. Staniszewski.
Hyperspace.
Hey. Well, so we have a couple of announcements. If you don't follow us on the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, you missed out on a pretty big announcement that happened yesterday, and that is the announcement of Gold Squadron Paint Wars. All right, so if you're a painter, you're going to want to get in on this, okay? So the Gold Squadron Paint Wars is an episodic painting competition that we're putting together. Essentially, if you've ever watched Chopped, think about it that way. We're going to have 3 painters going up against each other in each episode. They're going to have a certain theme that they're going to have to follow. We're going to have some judges. It's going to be a ton of fun. You could see all the information right there. There's some more information inside the application, and the painters are paid. So if you want to be a part of it and want to be considered to be part of it, because we're only accepting 30 for the first season, and then we're going to put 30 on standby for season 2. And of course, if we get enough, we'll just continue just kind of backlogging and figure it out from there. But I'm super excited about it. There's actually right before the podcast, I had a production meeting just talking about some of the plans for it and some of the ideas. And I'm gonna tell you, things are looking cool. So if you are interested, go ahead, sign up. It is free to join, to be a part of it, and in fact, you're paid. So again, we're looking for skilled and experienced painters. Next, Gold Squadron Flight Club Championships, guys. The next Flight Club the first one is coming up now in only a couple weeks. January 23rd is the first qualifier. Don't miss out, okay? And in fact, today's podcast is brought to you by the Gold Squadron Flight Club Championships, where players of all levels have a chance to win championship level prizes, templates, exclusive dial covers, all the things. Check them out. I mean, there's really a ton of prizes. If you haven't seen the structure, basically everybody qualifies for a championship event. Even if you win 0 games, you are part of a championship event and still have chances to win championship level prizes. You can try to get that ace level all 4 times. You can try it if you want to. Basically, your best performance equals your championship event. More information at goldsquadronpodcast.com. Okay. The structure must be Mrs. GSP approved. It is. It's true. All right. Now, today's discussion revolves basically around the majority of what the Gold Squadron Flight Club Championships entails, and that is hyperspace. Now, the first 2 qualifiers are extended, but the Ace and Veteran level championships, as well as the last 2 qualifiers, are all hyperspace. Essentially, our top Ace player, that best player who we determine for this championship, will have gone through the gauntlet of hyperspace. And we have had some events that have had hyperspace, but now with the release of the latest ships, the addition of the Actus 2, the V-Wing, all those ships in that wave, we haven't quite seen the full evolution and shaking out of hyperspace. There was the Hexiled Gaming Hyperspace Championship. That did happen. So we do have some data, but I mean, one event does not necessarily make an entire meta. So today we're going to be doing a couple things. We're going to be exploring what ships are in hyperspace, are hyperspace legal for each faction. I've made graphics for each of those that I'm going to make public. I know some people don't necessarily, they would like an easy way just to look at it. I made some very easy to to look at graphs that we'll be talking about. We're going to go through, and then after we've discussed what is good in each faction, what's bad in each faction, what's kind of weird, we're going to take the opportunity and we're going to make a way too early rankings, which I know you guys love to argue with us about, and try to figure out where we think each of the factions will shake out when we get to the end of the Gold Squadron Flight Club Championships. Whew. All right. Are we ready? Okay. Robert in the chat asked, how many people can each qualifier handle? 248, I think is the number. A chunk of people. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so let's first talk about, this is the structure on how all of the graphs are set up, okay? Hyperspace Breakdown. Basically, for most factions, there's one faction that gets a little weird, but for most factions, it's divided so that when you get to a ship, it's either going to be generic, where it includes the generic pilots, or it includes the limited pilots, and then, of course, there's a bunch of pilots that aren't legal. If a ship is legal in both the generics and the limited, they will be colored blue. If they're kind of weird, they're colored yellow, and if it's white, then it's just on that side. But we'll jump into it first. Ryan, I know that you have been a huge fan of hyperspace. It is what occupies most of your mental X-Wing space. What faction do you want to cover? And I'll pull it up here.
Oh, I get to start with any faction?
Any faction you want. Yeet.
Let's go Resistance.
Resistance. There it is. Give us the deets.
So the details are, what's not legal is what was not legal before, at least for the ship chassis, which is no Star Fortress and no Falcon. But we did get shaken up a bit is the generic and limited. And the Fireball, for example, is only the generic Colossus Station Mechanic. The A-Wings are only the named A-Wings, but you get them all. The Resistance Transport is only generic, so only Logistics Division Pilot. And for the pod, it's all the named ones, which is all of them because there's no generic one. And for T-70s, it's all named T-70s. So there's your limited and generic split for that faction.
Now, when I was going through this, because I will say that creating these graphics for each of the factions also allowed me the opportunity to kind of see the entire faction in one site and compare them quickly to each other. I found it interesting, especially with the limited amount of number of ships in the Resistance and the First Order specifically, that they would leave out something as simple as, like they wouldn't give you one of the TIE bombers. Like why not include one of the I said TIE bomber, the Star Fortress, and why not maybe include the generic Falcon? You have any maybe speculation there why?
It actually should be a pretty simple answer. I think they actually mentioned this in the article, and that is simply that those ships have not been re-released in a second edition packaging or product for them. They're trying to maintain hyperspace to be available second edition products.
Alrighty. Marcel, choose a faction, any faction.
All right, so we're not taking the faction of basically just the A-Wings. That's the only thing that's in that faction. Let's take a different one.
There's plenty of stuff in Resistance other than A-Wings. So.
All right, we'll dive more good stuff. We'll dive more into it. We'll dive more into them specifically here in a minute. Let's just go and read them off here. Actually, for now, what I'll do is I'll just pull them up. We'll go with the First Order. What do we got in First Order here?
I don't want First Order. Give me Empire. Got to be Rebel.
First Order.
You let Ryan choose, and you're not letting.
I made the mistake. We weren't breaking it down. I'll let you pick in the breakdown. Just read it to me. Read me the bedtime story.
Lies. First, William steals my Chewbacca outfit, and then I get lies. So not legal is the Upsilon. And for generics, you get the Thai SF, and it's only one of the generics. You don't even get a choice between two generics. You just get the one I2 generic.
You get both.
And then you do? I
Yeah.
thought it was only the one.
You get both.
Okay. And then for limited ships, you get the silencer. Well, basically the rest of them: the silencer, the interceptor, the what is it? Is it the brute? No, not the brute's from the other one. The FO and the what do you call that one?
The Psy shuttle.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
The Malrus shuttle. Yeah.
The Mars. All right, then we'll jump into the past here. When we get to Separatists, we have everything. Everything is legal in some way, shape, or form. We have on both the generic and limited side those vultures. All the vultures are available. Generic only, we have the Scimitar, aka Sith Infiltrator, and the Tri-Fighter. Those are the generics only. When we get to the limited or the named pilots, we have the Nantex, the Belbalab, the Fire Spray, HMP Gunship, and the Hyena Bomber. What about Republic, Will?
Let's see. For Republic, the generics are the new. Oh man.
V-Wing.
I was gonna say V19. I got stuck on it for a second. The new V-Wing is generics only. The Arc 170 and the Aether Sprite are all generics. On the limited ships then would be the Lat, the Y-Wing, the Torrent, the Naboo Starfighter, and the Ada.
Then going into that original trilogy era, this is where things start getting a little bit funky here. Ryan?
Yeah, it's super weird. So we have obviously a lot of things not legal. No IGs, no Y-Wings, no G1As, no Hawks, no Kirax, no Shadowcaster, no Chemogala, no Quad Jumper, no Skurg. What we do have, we have generic fire sprays, we have generic mining guilds, we have generic Z95s, we have limited Scum Falcon, we have limited Escape Craft, we have limited Fangs, and we have limited YV666. What we have for both are Seeks and Jumpmasters.
Then we get
It looks like there's one more in there for limited.
Yeah, so in the limited, we don't get
one single AHAV.
Yeah, we get AHAV, exactly. That's it. It was really weird. I was like, how do I mark this? Like, I guess I just put the ship. We get a HAV, no Seavor. It's anti-Seavor is what that is, right there. Too good. Is
Yasby wrong? Do we not get Overseer? Overseer Yushin?
Maybe I left that one there. And Yushin. All right.
Oh yeah, so literally all mining guilds minus Seavor.
That's right. Marcel, what about the Empire?
I always get what I want. Told you to give me Empire, you give me Empire. So the no gunboats, no Phantoms, no Lambda shuttle. That's the Bomber and the Punisher. Both of them are not there.
Correct.
And then no aggressors. That's it. This faction is dead without the aggressors. For the limited pilots, you get the TIE Fighter and the
TIE Reaper.
Pharaoh. TIE Reaper, there you go. And then you get, for the generics, you get the TIE Striker, both TIE Vance, the V1 and the X1. You get the TIE Defender. You get the not Sunterfell. You get what is that one? That's the Decimator and
the Brute.
Oh, the Brute. Yeah, the TIE Brute.
I will say we're gonna break them down in a little bit. I think out of all of them, the Empire is the weirdest. It feels really strange. It feels the most different. And then
for sure.
And then we get to the Rebels, and the Rebels is a convoluted hot mess. Okay, it is ridiculous. Okay, here we go. So let's start with not legal. Not legal. No ARC 170s. No Phantom. Two Phantom 1s, no Azatuk, no K-Wing, no E-Wing, no Hawk, no Rebel TIE Fighter, no U-Wings, no YT-2400s, and no Z-95s. We do get generic B-Wings, we get generic Y-Wings, and we do get generic A-Wings. We get some generic X-Wings. What we do get, we get the Red Squadron Veteran and the Blue Squadron Escort. On the limited side, we also get, basically, we get all the Y-Wings, we get all the B-Wings. We do get the limited Falcons, all the A-Wings. Sorry, that's supposed to be blue as well. We get limited pilots on the Sheathipede. We get Ezra and Zeb. We get some of the X-Wings as well. Now, this would have been a shorter list if I would have if I would have just put the ones that we didn't have, but it follows the it follows the pattern that I established here. So we do get Luke, Thane, Garvin, Jek, Levan Tenza, and Two Tubes. And then we get some of the VCX pilots. We get Hera, Callus, and Kanan. Now, what I thought was interesting is, you know, with the this is all over the place. Obviously, the not legal stuff is things that haven't been published in second edition. But like at first, when I was looking at the Rebel X-Wings, I questioned. I was like, why some of the partisans, some of the Saw's renegades, and not others? Like, it's kind of odd to have some and not all. Because I was thinking at first, I was like, when I noticed they were missing, I was like, oh, maybe it's because they, they're from that second edition to first edition transition pack. But then there was also the Reaper. So I have no idea. Is my answer there?
My only assumption is that they, as Ryan said a bit ago, that they made a point that Hyperspace does include all second edition products, and I would assume that they didn't, because they excluded the generic Caverns Angels, that they wanted at least something from that second edition legal pack. And they're not even including the U-Wings,
right?
Which is the second edition. I don't like how they didn't do that, but that's splitting hairs, I guess. But so that could be the only thing, is that they wanted Edrio and the one nobody flies.
We need some tubes and Tenza, baby. Tubes and Tenza.
Yeah, apparently Edrio Two Tubes only works with Zeb in Hyperspace, so there's a combo for you. There's start your list. 125 more points.
Now, our rebel fans out there probably immediately went, "What about Wedge?" No Wedge, no Bix. They're gone. Okay, basically that's FFG on the way out saying, "Get creative, fly something other than Wedge, but we'll still give you Luke." Because of theme. All right, so we went and did a quick just breakdown of what's in and what's out. Now let's start getting into the nitty gritty. And since we have Rebels up right now, let's start here. Now, if you are in the chat right now, feel free to be a part of the conversation. If you're watching later on, leave a comment in the description down below. When you look at Rebels, what immediately comes to you and says, this is good? We'll start there. What is good in Hyperspace? What is that is available? Will, we'll start with you.
Jake. Let's start there. Jake went down in price. What? And pretty much all the A-Wings have gone down slightly since their original form. I think he's one of the best. I think that, I have a special place in my heart for Dutch and Garvin, the Y-Wing and the X-Wing. I think they're super good. I'll probably give another shout out to Callus, which is kind of like a whole list. I just described a whole list you can make. But I think Callus is priced to move as well for that 4-dice gun.
What do you think, Ryan?
I 100% agree on Jake, especially if you run any, I don't care if it's generic or limited B-Wing, you should have Jake in your list. I don't care how many B-Wings. bring Jake if you have B-Wing. The focus link to roll is too good of a move you can do when Jake can give him a focus to ignore. Speaking of B-Wings, ion torpedoes are cheap and passive sensors is cheap. Like 6 points. Here's passive sensors, ion torpedoes on a B-Wing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I've had a couple people I know who've been trying that out. I think didn't I bring that to something on a flight club recently? Yeah. It's good. Also, since the X-Wings, the generic X-Wings went down, that now means the Zach Matthews, I guess when he played it during campaign against cancer, the Leia 3Xs, with the price decrease in the Xs, the Leia just gained engine upgrade. So like, I've always been touting that to me, Leia is the better i5 Falcon over Lando, just because the unpredictability of Leia versus Lando, who always wants to do blues. So she's a little more self-sufficient. But yeah, watch out for more generic X-Wings, more combinations that you can create. You can do what I do. I put together somewhere like Jake with tracers, 3 or 4 X's and 10 nub, 3 generic X's, and Jake with tracers. That seems really solid baseline.
Now, to go back to your, if you bring B-Wings, bring Jake, I want to remind our viewers that linked, you can do that at Jake's Initiative 4. So even if you're bringing those lowest initiative, cheapest B-Wings, you can trigger that because it is a focus action with a barrel roll after it. You can trigger that later on. So super solid.
Yep. And I guess just to make sure with passive sensors, let's see. Can only perform action in your perform action step. So if you have triggered passive sensors, you will not be able to perform a focus action from Jake, though. So that limits that potential combination, but still good baseline. Always good tool in the pocket.
And Marcel, what do you think is good here that we haven't talked about?
I think they covered it all. I mean, when I was going through this, I just brought up all the ships, and it's the ships that they already mentioned. The B-Wing is 10 num, all the A-Wings, Luke, Dutch, and all 3 of the YT-1300s. I think they're pretty well represented. You've got a lot of choices here.
What do you think about the VCX? Do you think that's going to make a splash?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so because
I know you've been
they don't want to have. They want to have advanced sensors most of the time,
right?
They
and
want
that's
to
not
have Saw
hyperspace
Gerrera. So a lot of the tools that you want to have.
They even took out Zeb Crew in hyperspace.
So a lot of the tools that they want to have, you don't, and you're better off taking a YT-1300 with multiple arcs and a better time on target than this one. So not so much for them. But yeah, I think that's what you guys also mentioned, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One quick question. Do we remember, did Kanan in the VCX get decreased in cost at all during the last points update? Because that's like the one VCX we rarely never see, but he's got 2 force. There's your kind of saw. If you have passive sensors are taking a target lock, right?
Yeah, let's see.
Like, you're pretty well modded with Kanan.
I'll jump.
You are, but it's just the time on target.
Sure, I can still agree with that.
Yeah, it's the fact that he's I3 as well, and can't change his dial like Hera can.
No, he stayed the same price. Okay. So that's that one. Now, Marcel, you said you wanted to take a look here at the Empire, huh? The weird one, the one.
I was just messing with you, bud. Sure.
All right. Well, I'll pull up the Empire. What do you think is good here?
The Inquisitors for sure are good. The generic Inquisitors, the Tempest Squadron TIE Advance X1s are good. The Delta Squad, basically the I-1 Defenders are good. Maybe the I-4, but mostly the I-1s. And then I also have the TIE Brute. The generic I-1 TIE Brutes are good. Not such a big fan of the named. Or the same thing with the Decimator is a little bit better than the VCX. I just don't think in this same thing. I just don't think they have all the tools that they would have in an extended match. So maybe Palpatine. Maybe you can have one Palpatine, but I don't think if you have that with Palpatine and 2 defenders, you can have like a super tanky defender list and just. But I don't know.
Just kind of survive your way through it.
Yeah, just that the problem is that the defenders shooting last aren't going to do a whole lot to keep that Decimator alive.
Will?
Oh man, I really like the TIE Advanced, the TIE Advanced X1.
Even without Vader? But what about my Vader?
They hold FCS. They shoot 3 dice guns, triple modded. Like, what else do you want? Maybe some maneuverability, but you can't have everything. They got 2 shields. So I really like them. Well, with tracer missiles now, and they don't need to take passive, so I really like them. I really, me, I like a good fire control system. I don't really know if I can recommend anything else. I mean, V1s obviously, but I don't know. I don't know about anything else.
Ryan?
I'll echo Marcel talking about the defenders with Palpatine. That's kind of an early archetype I've looked at with Captain Faroff, the famed Palpatine carrier, and 2 defenders. It's just a really hard to kill list. You got to have the right tools. It's token stacking because of the evade focus. Your I-1, you may be shooting last, but they got to go through some really good defensive capabilities. And if there's any focuses left over at the end, they know they can use them offensively. They don't have to think twice about keeping it for defense if they haven't needed to use it yet. TIE Swarm is there. Like, stuff fits. Howl Runner's there. All the named ones exist. I mean, can it see the field? We'll have to see. We haven't seen it really be as effective by comparison to per se like a droid swarm because of the droid swarm's blocking and just wall and like mass creating capability that can mess with a TIE swarm. But man, you can fit Howl, Iden, the 2 mainstays. I think you can add a Wampa still in there. Let's see if I were just put it together real quick. Howl, Gideon is obviously a take. Iden, let's just say Delmico. He can be really anyone. We want Wampa, and we got 30 points left. That could be like Mauler or Scourge. That's like an I5. Probably take Mauler. Just range 1, big hit. And that's every. Besides Wampa, everyone's I4 or higher, shooting pretty accurate 2 dice. People wondering about swarm tactics that is not in hyperspace. Mm-hmm. There's not really any major.
There's no big TIE fighter tech, right? It's just the TIE fighters. There's no big TIE fighter tech in the in available for the TIE, because normally that's what they would reach for, right? Would be swarm tactics and extended, or at least what they did before to bring them all up to I5 or I6.
Yeah, swarm tactics or some crack shots. Really, the only thing that might be of interest is the precision ion engine, but that's 3 points as a mod right now. That new the PyTie mod, getting them those loops. But 3 points, you're losing a good named pilot probably, being Mauler Mythal, swapping them down for something else. And I feel like just taking the named ones, at least it may be worth putting on the board, seeing what it does.
All right, let's continue to stay in this original trilogy and Scum. Will, what do you think's good here?
Definitely the Sikhs. They've been proven to be good. Tractor beam went up on them a little bit, but like they still have access to all the other munitions, though, including thread tracers. Obviously, Fang Fighters. Can't go wrong with like old Terok or Fen Rao. And I mean, I want to say Bosk. I really do. I mean, wait, is Zam legal? Oh yeah,
Yeah, she is.
Zam Bosk. Shout out to that as well.
What's got you excited in Scum, Marcel? What do you think might be good?
I actually think Scum is probably the most versatile faction they have because you have way too much stuff that's good. Han Solo still got the autopilot drone. That's my baby. But it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. You're missing 000 and you're missing Trick Shot, which are two kind of. They need to be on that list or on that chip in order to make it good. You got Kira, I think, but that's not enough to carry it. But you do have Namlam and Dangar, which are really good ships, especially Namlam now with Zam Wessel. Makes that ship really tricky. Fen Rao is a beast. Ultarok might be good in this format more so than an extended. I think that's a ship that a lot of people forgot about, especially with less I5s flying around and less I6. The M3As, I think we all know what the M3As can do. Those are just beasts. And I think more than anything else, it's just a combination of M3A I1s with the M3As and the binary Z95s. And now that you had threat tracers on there, the ability to get a couple threat tracers on there, a couple tractor beams, ions, I think the Scum faction is probably in the best position out of all the factions as far as variety. There's so many things you can do. You can ace it up with 2 or 3 I6s, or you can spam it with 7 well modded I1 shots coming at you.
Ryan?
Yeah, just echo a couple things Marcel mentioned. The inclusion of tracers means you're low initiative. You have a lot of low initiative combination generics, whether it's the Mining Guild Ties, the Z95s, the Seeks. 2 of those platforms being able to take tracer missiles, whether it is the Seeks or the Z95s. So there's some combination put together someone's going to create and make use of tracers really well. Maybe even a version of Octacon's list where, there are no generic fangs. That's right. So those can't be in there. Namlam is always a good space blocker and just making room for aces like Fen Rao to do whatever he needs to do. I really think if you're not doing a generic swarm in Scum, you need to highly, highly consider bringing Old Terok with you consistently. Because Marcel's right, a little bit less I5s, a little bit less scariness out there, but there are a lot of things right now that have the ability to save or stack tokens with evades, whether it's the ETAs that we'll talk about soon in Republic, and then the Defenders, which Old Terok can commonly move after, or if the ETAs want to do real damage to them, they're going to be, they just can't be in range 1 of Old Terok anyway.
This is a little gimmicky, but what do you think throwing like some Z95s with tracers? And since you don't have the I1 fangs anymore, throw a couple of advanced proton torpedoes on the Seeks and just let the target locks do the work from the tracers and throw 5 dice.
So
Yeah,
it'll work once.
The one thing I think we forget with tracer missiles a lot is when tracer missiles were used consistently in first edition, they had guidance chips backing them up.
Yeah.
So right now, if you're trying to get tracers to drive your list's ability to use certain weapons, it's got to be a really good tracer missile shot, and it's got to be well modded, and you don't get that often. So for me, if I ever put tracer missiles in a list, and it could get me locks to use munitions, say like a lot of TIE bombers. We've seen that archetype before. I think someone who brought like 6 TIE bombers, a couple of tracers, and a couple of cheap missiles, ion torpedoes, whatever. The issue becomes is that I would not want to try and use those tracer missiles to get my locks on something with 3 agility. But if something has 2 agility, my 3 dice has a chance to at least equal out more on an average basis or overcome their 2 agility to get the locks. if I'm going up against 3 agility stuff, I'm going to manually try and take locks, and then maybe at the end of all that stuff shooting, I'll actually shoot my tracer missiles last to get my locks for the next round. Not necessarily, but it's helpful. What do you think, Will?
I fully agree that it is difficult to just rely on the tracer missiles to the lock required munitions. And definitely, if you're trying that, you definitely need tracer missile. I think that's what the value of, though, is that in that storm we were talking about, they can just bring cannons. They don't need those tracers. And it's, man, I could talk a whole episode on thread tracers. But really what it comes down to is that even if they don't hit, right, you spent 1 point, because it's 2 points, 1 per shot, right? You spent 1 point to take a 2 attack dice ship. And if it's at range 3, that's a 2 dice swing then. You get an extra die and they get a reduced die. Like, even if that attack doesn't hit, like 1 point to up that 2 attack dice potential, I think is well worth it. Because, like, maybe you'll roll 3. Maybe your opponent will be like, oh, I guess I'll spend my only focus token on the tracer missile. So I think they're super good. Must have. If you're running 6 ships, man, so many better bring a thread tracer.
Bye.
Marcel, question for you, actually, since you've had more experience with the Scum YT. What do you think of the newly added false transponder codes on an I-6 like Han taking target locks as the last ship to kind of peg a ship and say you're locked and jammed?
Muted, sorry. That's on Dengar, actually. It's any ship. It's a mod, right?
No, it's an illicit. So that's with Dengar.
Okay,
I normally assume you're taking
contraband. Yeah, contraband.
Yeah. And I don't know of many other illicit ships in hyperspace right now. So like Scum may have the most access to it.
Yeah,
It's really what's pushing the Z95. Right now, the I1's 26 points for both thread tracers and false transponder codes, which could, because you're actually double dipping into false transponder codes then, which not a lot of people can do. Because if they're like, oh, we got to take out that thread tracer, let's lock that guy. Cool, defensive bonus. But if they ignore them and you get that thread tracer off, you get to jam that target and give everybody else locks. Like, that's a lot of support out of a little 26-point Z.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I just don't know with Han. I don't think he has enough tools to take advantage of jamming something, and it's just a lot. It's super expensive just for a jam. Might as well just throw Hondo in there and sacrifice someone.
I will say I do like the combos, and I think we hit it already. I do like the combo of thread tracers and false transponders together. Like that did some absolutely disgusting things. If you didn't watch this last Saturday's Gold Squadron Flight Club, they're actually Bryant Francis quadrupled down on the false transponders by having Jabba Crew in his list. It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Be like, jam. Every time. It was pretty ridiculous. And for my curiosity here is, you'll notice that, of course, they decided, all right, we'll put the generic fire spray into hyperspace, but I look at it more as a anti-boba decision rather than a go what is it, Mandalorian or like bounty hunter or something like that.
It's just bounty hunter.
It's bounty hunter. Do we think we'll see any bounty hunter? I know this is maybe going into the bad, but we haven't hit that quite yet. But do we think we'll see bounty hunters?
I would actually say that I don't know how good it is, but they do have a unique trait in hyperspace, is that they're one of the most efficient bomb carriers. What I mean by that is that you don't take time away from shooting to drop bombs. You don't need to get into a weird position to drop a bomb, right? You just turn around, hard one, focus up, shoot that rear arc, drop a bomb next round. And that's 3 of them. Man, 3 of them with thermals gives you 5 points left over for some crew or illicits, what have you.
Yeah, some people I know locally played with 3 fire sprays, and they're always something to be concerned about because like the chassis is hard to take down completely, takes a lot of firepower, and it doesn't really need to commit hard to anything because it's got the front and back arc with boost. So it has ability to be around the board in spots that most other ships can't be. And then bombs add on top of that, that means that second round of engagement or that scrum becomes extremely dangerous. And little tinfoil hat theory, maybe Boba Fett's not allowed in hyperspace because another Mandalorian may be soon.
Da-da-dun, da-da-dun. Stop. I gotta stop right there. Because it's those next few notes that identify that melody. All right. Yeah. Okay. We'll leave Scum. We'll get to the bad stuff here soon. I want to hit the rest of the good. What do we got next? We just finished the original trilogy. Let's go, Marcel. Your favorite, the Republic, right?
Yeah, one of, I guess.
How do you feel about them in hyperspace, though?
Let me see what I have them for hyperspace. So they're in here. Or did I skip them? I would not have skipped them. Or would I?
You felt so confident and happy about it.
Yeah. Well, I know they got options, but I guess I did. Oh, I didn't skip them, but I overrode it. But the good stuff there, I think the Jedi Knights with the calibrated are going to be really good. Those are going to be good. Yeah. Then even heightened perception on them is going to be good as well. The Delta 7 maybe not so much. I think for the ETAs, you get Anakin, Ayala, and Obi. The I6 and 2 I5s are going to be pretty decent for them as well. Rick Ole with R5 Astromech, with the with the R2. Well, R2D2 he can't do regular. Oh yeah, you do get the R2 for 5 points, so he's still going to be good. I think overall they're sitting at a pretty good spot with the choices that they have. Also, the arc. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like the I2 arc wasn't available before; they just made it available this time.
Yeah,
right. And
they slotted it
correct.
in.
So the 42 point arc 170 is going to be good for them as well. So I just think that they have a good set of options. I think overall they're in a pretty decent spot. I haven't even mentioned like Hawk in there, but like the Hawk would also be good with some not the Hawk, what is it? Warthog. There you go. That's the good one. Yeah, Warthog. I wasn't saying the Hawk like the pilot Hawk, but no, the Warthog as a pilot with some Jedi Knights and stuff like that. So they've got options. Yeah, I would say the Jedi Knights are probably the best calibrated Jedi Knights. Then the ETAs, Anakin is going to be in a good spot with not many I6, even though he made, what was it, the final?
Yeah.
In one of those?
In Lima.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think they're going to be pretty good AC ships. I don't know how good they're going to be spamming, unless you're taking a lot of Jedi to spam.
I mean, if you're gonna spam Jedi, you can only really spam the generics, right? The generic.
Well, that's the only thing that's
7B.
available. It's 4 of them.
All right.
4 of them, and then a support ship. Yeah. Actually, you get 4 of them in Shakti. That's pretty good for calibrated, and then just Shakti to play support.
Yeah, Shakti is actually really good with them because they have purple evade. So she can fly around, helping them hold on to those purple evades, helping them save their focus for defense. Or save their focus for offense, rather.
Ryan,
Yeah.
any other good things you like about the Republic here?
I would like to give a shout out to my local buddy Josh Richardson, who won the recent Hyperspace Championship from Hexiled Gaming hosted with 3 Delta 7B Jedi Knights and Hound in the lat with 5s. When Jedi Knights with Delta 7B are supported with the lat fire convergence, that is scary. Look out. I think that is actually I didn't think about Jedi Knights with 7B still being a potential thing. Most people didn't, but Delta 7B went down a little bit. And then Hound is the only one that fits, and you have 3 points left. Throwing 5s on there actually isn't a bad choice. That's what he decided to go with, and that's probably really the only use unless you actually wanted to bring a little bit of a bid. The Y-Wings being limited, it's pretty much broadside the ship. That's all that's there. In my opinion, you could throw Matchstick in there, but I think broadside is still too cost effective by comparison. I don't see a reason to take 2 Y-Wings. I've tried it. It's very meh.
Yeah, the consistency of broadside is just amazing, right? Because his ability is self-isolated as well. Matchstick is cool, but then your Matchstick, for anybody who's not familiar, is the one that when they have red tokens, essentially you end up target locking your own Matchstick, and so that he has rerolls. But then you're tangling up your target locks, right? You're taking away that tool from yourself.
Yep. Warthog is there, so generic-wise, you have arcs, you have V-Wings. I've had another local buddy of mine who has been put a lot of time into V-Wings. He's really trying to find a good spot for them, but I do think they are actually pretty well. Bombs are good on them, or they're more needed on them than most people I think would consider. Without bombs, they don't really have a good threat on the after scrum time. And thermal detonators are good for 3 points. Little Annie still exists. I know Marcel's enjoyed flying Little Annie in the past. And Little Annie's ability synergizes with Obi-Wan ETA. So that works for people. As a reminder, the ETA Obi-Wan. So after you or friendly Anakin Skywalker range 0 to 3 executes a maneuver, if there are more enemy ships than other friendly ships at range 0 to 1, Obi may spend a force charge, and that ship gains a focus token. So even if, let's say, he already did a focus action or is coordinated focus or is stressed, that's a very well-stacked Anakin with likely an evade with full throttle as a focus. So target lock, and then big boom advanced proton torpedoes. I know Marcel's, that's a common munition you've put on him before. And as always, Shock T, we've mentioned in the past, looks extremely good. Something's going to work really well with that. Actually, for people who aren't aware of the combination, if you have Shock T and Yoda in your list, both of them can save and evade, and they can both get their full force back in the next round. Shock T uses her ability on herself, uses her ability for Yoda, but Yoda says, hey, that's the second time you used the ability. I'll use it technically instead. They both only spent 1 force. They'll get them both back next turn. Both have stored evades.
Now, really quickly, a quick PSA because of the official squad builder causing confusion, and it hasn't been fixed yet. Turrets are legal in hyperspace per the PDFs. So that's just important. So when we were talking about the Y-Wings earlier, both Matchstick and Broadside can equip either ion cannon or dorsal turret, and that's for the entire, for all the factions. Like those turrets are available. Just a quick PSA, they are hashtag official squad builder, worst squad builder. But I know there's a lot of confusion for that. Okay. So let's continue here onto the nemesis of the Republic, and we hit the Separatists here. Now, one of the things that I noticed right away jumping into the Separatists was that all of the vultures were available. Now, in and of itself, most people don't play all of them anyway. They only really play the I-1 because there's almost no efficiency-wise, they're just too cheap not to take. I was kind of surprised that they didn't kind of force the hand of some of the Separatist player to like, what if they had taken away that? I'll ask you guys, because I haven't played much Separatist myself. If they had taken away the initiative 1 and 3 generics, would Separatists see as much play? I mean, what do you guys think?
They're kind of in a weird spot right now to define their lists. I think a lot of lists were heavily reliant on Techno Union bombers and the Bactoid prototype. Oh, wait, no, they're not called Bactoid prototypes. Bactoid drones of the HMPs. I think we're backing up a lot of lists, and also the Nantex, right? But the Nantex lost so much. They're basically Gorgle now, right? You got Gorgle, a Schiffer, and nothing else. So without their backbone, I think that they're kind of lost. They need to utilize what they have available. Ryan, I know you've been. You can still take the. I've seen you take the bombardment drone to get the Dark One probe droids. So they still have access to that kind of utility, but there's not really much else you can do with the like spamming hyenas. There's not a lot you can do with the HMPs, but as far as the Tri-Fighters, I think that they're gonna have to go back to that original kind of design, like list building, and utilize those vultures. And because I don't think they really have been. Do you think people have been utilizing vultures, Ryan?
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a lot of droid swarms, and we never really did see a lot of droid swarms before. Even now, we get full availability with vultures in hyperspace, and I still see in some hyperspace events a ton of people going for dual fire spray with Sam and Django, which is an archetype that we're seeing more of. I think it's B+ tier. It has tools and people can be experienced with it to be A tier. I'm not buying it as much as other people are. I actually think there may be more to like Django or Zam with 4 to 5 other droids, whether they're vultures or hyenas, however they want to mix it in. And that's where the limited vulture DFS 311, what I like to name Butterbot, you pass the calculate. He can pass it to a friendly ship. And that's actually really helpful. And where you lose, when you were talking about the hyenas, losing the generics, right? That basically means that you have now sort of taxed bringing Dark One probe droids more. So without increasing the Dark One probe droid cost, you've increased how much it is to take it. So that's limiting another whole munition you can take in a list, because in the extended version of the list I've been currently playing, I can add a whole ion torpedo because I can drop down to the generic, whereas I can't because I need the bombardment drone. So where you don't have the generic hyenas, you do have the generic Tri-Fighters. So you can weave those into a list with some named hyenas, with some generic Trade Federation drones to create this mixed hybrid droid swarm that I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I've seen people enjoy some HMPs with some munitions, partnered with Zam or Django or some other combination of ships. I haven't seen much of the Belba Labs myself, to be honest, but it may be through lack of trying, not how good or bad they are.
Well, I mean, in the hyperspace, we're likely, if we're going to see a Belba Lab, we're going to see Grievous, right? I mean, I think with the limitation of not having as many Initiative 6s out there, I think Grievous ends up getting a little bit more value if that's the type of ship that you like to fly. And also, something important to note with those, with the Vultures, is that Discord missiles are not hyperspace legal, okay? That Discord missiles, on such a cheap platform like Vultures just increases the value immensely. And at the same time, one of the biggest reasons people were bringing Discord missiles was the prevalence of Boba Fett, right? So with Boba Fett not being there, but also the weapon not being there, I think it gives some of those. I think that mid-range, mid-initiative ships that are less common in Extended are really happy that Discord missiles are not around, because they don't have these bugs, these little robot bugs clamping onto their hull, and it can be a bad time. But yeah, HMPs I think are also going to be a pretty big hit for Separatist players, because they're just super consistent. They're super consistent. They have a lot of flying potential with that side slip, and we've seen them be good in Extended. Just 4 of them on their own, mind you. Those were the generics, so we'll see what they end up doing in the limited fashion.
Without the generics,
Hyperspace.
I've had a hard time finding where to really fit them into lists that I would play them in myself. I'm not a big fan of 3 ships right now. The Separatist, I've seen people do good with Fire Spray and 2 HMPs, just not my thing.
Marcel, any thoughts on the Seppies?
Not much. I mean, they cover. They've got all the tools, most of the tools that they had. I think the Discord missiles being out is going to be a big deal for them, for the I1s and what they could do. But with Django and Zam at 5 and 6, that's just going to automatically give them options, or just either Django or Zam, whichever. Probably Django with Zam as a crew makes more sense. But they've got options. I think they're in an okay spot. I've never personally been too much of a Separatist player myself, but just when I was looking through it a little bit earlier, I didn't feel like they were in too rough of a spot for the people that want to play them. Minus, again, the Discord missiles. I think the Discord missiles probably what will end up hurting them the most.
All right. Well, let's go with a faction that you have flown a lot of next. Let's jump to the Resistance. The Resistance. Marcel, I'll give you this watermelon. What's good in Resistance?
So I was so the way I did it on my screen, I just basically put up all the ships that were good, and I didn't put everything else. And when I look at the Resistance, I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a bunch of ships, but only one of them is not an A-wing. And that's the old Pope, the 62. Now, I get it. Nien can still be good. Aloe can still be good. You can do fun stuff. Actually, Nim Chireen is not so bad. Being able to get that basic advanced optics type of thing. Now, one of the things that they're missing advanced optics and heroic. That's going to hurt them a lot, because that's something that gives them a benefit over some of the that's kind of their get out of jail free card, both offensively and defensively, having the advanced optics and the heroic. So having that gone is an issue. But then I was looking at, okay, what can you do without it? And you can still fit basically the 3 I5s with Prockets, Merle, and since you're not wasting points on all that other stuff, you can still fit Greer in there. So you have, and you still have a couple points left over. So you have 3 Procket I5s, Merle, and Greer. And you can throw some like automated target priorities on there if you really, just want to throw something on the other guys. Actually, you can only throw that on Merle, but still, like, what else? What else you need, right? 5 A-wings that have the potential to hit hard, and even if they're not using heroic, they're still gonna be okay.
You could also we've gone back to this card time and time again, but you could also include thread tracers in your A-wing squad to also get those, if you at least offensively be able to set up some of those rerolls.
Oh yeah, you are correct. Especially if you're not going the Procket route, yeah, just get a couple thread tracers on a couple of them, and then I mean, there's you can mix your flavors however you want them. So that could still be good. And now the T70s can also fit the thread tracers, right? Because they basically can take anything they want.
Yep.
Yeah. So still, for what they cost, it's just I think the A-wings are still way too cheap for all the value they bring, even without their tools. Even if they're just naked, you put 5 of them on there, you're probably going to be okay, even without all those extra tools.
All right, and I mean, we also have some of the smaller, cheaper ships that are available for the Resistance as well. You can't sleep on those pods. Ryan, you've flown a lot of those pods.
Rose. Should be the number one pod you consider first, in my opinion. You don't need to put any upgrades on Rose, but you can if you want. Put C-3PO or Hondo on there. I've messed with both. Both are good. C-3PO going down 1 point to 5 can basically say I have a tiny coordinating, but still get my calculate and potentially get rerolls offensively and defensively for 30 points. Seems pretty good. I think Finn without heroic, like that used to be his cheap way of doing some extra damage. V Marati, we've seen people have use in the past, getting that intel agent like effect. Generic fireballs, don't sleep on them. There's not a lot of generic ships that you can spam at this low cost with this stat line right now. The Torrents have only the name Torrents in Republic. This is very much an equivalent because they have the 5 hull, 2 agility, but these guys can slam. They can provide a whole lot of blocks, which are really good. Fireballs can take tracers as well. So
they can take tracers and false transponder codes.
They can
the ultimate combo.
Combination. Yep.
Slamming Z95.
Yeah. False tracers standing by. Probably the go-to T70 list I've seen most of the time put together is Jess, Nimi, Bastion, and the new Teeman Wexley. No upgrades besides the S-foils. You have a lot of potentially double modded shots with Jess, Nimi, and Bastion. Mm-hmm. And then Temin to help get those mods that calculate if you needed to do any barrels, if you wanted to boost, but you could still keep your wings closed and then flip them open so you get a calculate even though you boost and you can't normally link. Or my favorite, which is the Talon Roller K turn, open up the foils with Teeman and still get a calculate anyway. So that's sort of like the standard 4 T70 list that I think has the most potential. But we can definitely see a mix of stuff put together, whether it's rows coordinating with 2 to 3 named T70s, with 1 or 2, whatever A-wing T70 plus rows combination you want to make. I will say, not having advanced optics, I think, does hurt some of the list building combination of potentials you can create with A-wings. I do think A-wings by themselves can still be solid, but there's a lot less you should expect out of them in terms of damage output when you need it. That whole consistency and expecting consistency isn't there anymore.
Why didn't I get 2 hits? What's wrong? Now, Will, is there any value in that logistics division pilot?
By
the way, for anybody who doesn't know, because I'm sure there's some people who are like, what? That's the Initiative 1 transport for the Resistance.
Yeah, they are the Not great. The problem is that they're so much slower than all the other ships, except for maybe the pod, and all of their tools that would make them exclusive. The crew, the cannon, the tech, I guess. All the pods and the T-70s can already do all that, so it's not really. Without the combination of a named pilot ability, there's nothing really I'm seeing outside of maybe a cheap, like ion cannon. I'm not really sure if there's even enough I-1s to make a tractor beam carrier worth it. There's Marl.
Maybe, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, oh, no, I guess you could put it on the pod. Maybe it would be a Leia carrier. I mean, that seems like a bad idea, but it'd maybe be more survivable than a pod.
Well, pods can't take Leia, sure, but
you're right. Sorry, you're right because it's
she's double crew. I mean, the best. Here's really what it comes down to: is that there's no crew that you could put on a logistics pilot division that I wouldn't say you could just put on Rose, Hondo, C-3PO, Holdo. Whatever it is going on there. So I don't know their role other than like an ion cannon carrier.
Okay. All right. And
maybe some thread tracers mixed with advanced proton torpedoes. I don't know the math on that, but
yeah, but I mean, I think at that point you just take the fireball and cut your losses on the extra points, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
you're right.
2 threads, a proton rocket Colossus, and 3 advanced proton rocket logistics. But you're never going to get those advanced protons off because those things are so slow. You're never getting into range 1. So I don't know. Throw that one in the garbage.
All righty. And last but not least, let's hit up that first order. What do we think is going to be good in here, Will?
Let's see. Well, let's start with the former Supreme Leader, the Kylo Ren, has access to extreme maneuvers now in hyperspace, and as well as ion torpedoes. He could carry thread tracers, but that's a little ridiculous. Obviously, the interceptors, Hollow and Von Raug, and I don't really like Von Raug, or Von Reg. I don't know who Von Raug is, but Von Reg, is Von Raug Captain Marvel's nemesis?
I have no idea, but I just went with it.
Sure, it's Von Reg, Major Von Reg. The same things we were saying about other I-6s. There's a reduced field, so the Major here could take advantage of that. Obviously, we've seen a lot of success with Hollow. You can't get 6 foes, but you can still find a generic. My personal favorite, Revis, who benefits from Hollow's ability. So basically, Hollow locks something, takes a deplete, or strain, depending on how much aggro you want to give Revis. And then Revis should then also acquire a target lock because of the red token. And then you just give your token to Revis. Whether if you didn't care about a shot, give him the deplete. If you're trying to draw some aggro off your aces, you can give them the strain. So I really like that combo. I'm glad it's in hyperspace in this faction. We do have the named side shuttles, Gideon and Malorus.
Malorus, the correct choice, right?
I mean, you're not wrong. But the problem with Malorus is that you're going to have to... Oh, wait, no. Can you still fit... I'm doing some quick calculations here. Because you can still have the generic SFs, right? So... You can still get like 5 ships. You can't get a whole 6 malware swarm. But the passive rerolls on the low initiatives is still there. You actually just get a couple extra tricks there, like Muse and Tina in your foes. So I think there's quite a bit of options for the First Order. I think they have like definitely the fewest ships and probably even the fewest pilots out of all of the hyperspace factions. But I think they actually have a pretty diverse thing you can do. We've seen missile SFs, foe swarms, triple aces. Like you really do it all, and all those lists can be used in hyperspace.
Marcel, any thoughts on the First Order?
I think Will covered it all. I mean, it's they don't have a lot of ships available in there, and the ones that they do, they're the good ones, right? You know, you got the Kylo, Von Reg, Hollow with 4 SFs, the generic SFs, or you've got Maurus with, well, you got Maurus with the SFs. You can't really do like the old Maurus plus 3 I-1 silencers, but that's still not bad. Couple of stuffs on there, so I think this faction for hyperspace, it's a very predictable. You've got very predictable ways to go. You're either going Aces with Von Reg, Kylo, maybe Hollow or something like that, or you know, I don't think that you're doing a whole lot different. Maybe if you're mixing up your Maurus form with you know, like Revis or something like that. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward faction, I think. Not a bad one. It's just straightforward.
Any other insights, Ryan?
I'm going to make the bold prediction. I think this is the weakest hyperspace faction.
Okay.
Barring one obvious thing, Kylo is still really good. It's just a matter of finding the best list to have him in that maximizes his potential to take over a game and finish the game for you. And Will and Marcel are right. The fact that this archetype or this faction is going to be very predictable in what it's going to bring. It's going to be a lot of Kylo, which cool. Kylo is the face of the First Order, hands down.
I think Kylo Von Reg +1 gives you enough ace threat to be able to do stuff.
I don't think they can handle average swarms right now at all.
No, I think the go-to list, and I thought we saw this in extended as well, or perform well in extended, was Kylo Ren and 3 passive concussion SFs. Like you got good jousting force, you got at least I2, so at least you're fighting down the generics decently. And you still can keep that end game. And those concussions are going to, what do I want to say, draw a lot of aggro. They're going to get some heat off of Kylo when you're charging those into the fight.
All right.
I will say that I think the one thing that is hurting this faction is the lack of availability to have the cadets, the FOs, to fill up some spots, to fill in the spaces for those swarm type ships. Even the Kylo, Maurus, and 3 cadets was a solid archetype we saw before the update, and it doesn't exist right now. There's no cadets.
All right, so now that we've gone through, talked about all the things that are good, I want to get to the rankings because I think this is where we're likely going to disagree a little bit, and I have some space on our form here to give us some space to be able to make a couple of different rows depending on how we think things are going to go. One of the things I found in our discussions is that we were able to identify something that was both consistent and at least good, something that sounded like A tier in each of the factions, right? And one of the things I also found interesting is that the limitations that were put into the hyperspace, which, by the way, again, as a review, if anybody's just jumping in or you've forgotten, hyperspace does limit the pilots that are available compared to the extended version, that there are some archetypes that wouldn't necessarily be viable in extended that could possibly have a home in hyperspace. Now, what I want you to do, audience, everybody who's watching live, and if you're watching later on, go ahead and create what you think your rankings are 1 to 7, and we're gonna try to argue it out here amongst the four of us. We haven't pre-discussed this, and I know you guys like to hear us argue, so we're gonna go we're gonna go for it. Will, what faction do you think is the strongest faction in hyperspace?
This is a tough one because I think there's like some good lists, but if I had to single it out, I think it's actually Scum. I'll tell you why. That they do have an I6 ace, and their generics are great. They have large bases. They really, as Marcel said it, like they have access to so much that they're not really, what do I want to say? They're not slowed down by the hyperspace format too much.
Ryan?
I think I agree on that. I think the Seek swarms being intact and even being given tracer missiles adds even a bigger threat for them. Fenrau exists and is always a dangerous ship. Old Tarok was added to hyperspace, which gives them a good counterplay against what I think can be good in hyperspace, which is token stacking from defenders and ETAs and any other way someone wants to put some token stacks together. You have Namlam, which is a good big ship blocking disruptor. The Bounty Hunter Fire Spray is just a solid chassis, medium base boosting, and plenty more in between. You know, the generic mining guilds and Z95s. There'll be a combination there somewhere someone puts together. For me, it was pretty much between Scum or Separatist, I think, but I think it's too well-rounded of a faction. And like Will mentioned, I think Scum is probably at the top right now.
Marcel?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Scum as well.
Yep.
Like I said, they just got way too much variety. They got too many tools. They can do the i6 thing. They can do the fun tricks with Namlam, Zam, and all that. And more than anything else, their I1s are they have the scariest I1s in all hyperspace.
That wasn't much arguing. All right, not yet. Yeah, we'll it'll all sort itself out in the wash here. Okay, so we've ranked Scum. We are all feeling pretty strongly about Scum being the best. And you know, one thing that our conversation has revolved around is that these M3As, the value there and the utility is just really, really good. Which I'm sure, you know, if we talk to ourselves like pre-second edition and we said the M3A will be meta defining at some point, people would laugh at your face. All right, now we're gonna go the complete opposite end. Worst faction in hyperspace, and we're gonna start with Marcel.
This is actually a tough one. Because I know I'm kind of biased a little bit by my personal. I'm biased by my own personal experience and what I like to play. So I'm stuck between Empire and First Order. I just, but because of the Delta, because of the defenders, I'll have to give it to the First Order.
All right. We'll go ahead and put that at the end of your line. Ryan.
Well, I alluded to it earlier. I'm not backing down now. It is Kylo the faction. Kylo is really good still, but I don't know if he can carry it enough. I think there are other Empire's close. I agree with Marcel. I think we have yet to see where the brutes can mix in with things. Maybe they are more prevalent because of that front back arc sync laser cannon in hyperspace. I would assume it is. But the V1s, they can still do 7 ships, and 2 of them get tracers now. So re-rolling Barons of the Empire, 7 of those. Yeah, it's Kyle the faction, but he can't carry enough of it. First Order is in last for me as well.
Will?
I think we're gonna have our first disagree here. I am gonna put Resistance in last. And I'll tell you what. I think their strongest ships are their heroic optics A-wings and their generic T-70s. Neither which they have. Also, Ray's not in there. All the things that except for Rose, they have Rose, and that's like their only like really like A S tier ship in hyperspace. So I'm saying Resistance.
I am gonna have to back you up on that, Will. I think that I think people will try to bring those A-wings, but without the and this is purposely insulting A-wings, not people who play with them. The training wheels that is optics and heroics. Okay, I think the A-wings fall down.
I clap, and I'm an A-wing player. Don't worry. I understand what I'm doing.
If I hurt you in the chat, know that I love you. Okay, I don't like those A-wings. Alrighty, now this is we have each of us have 5 factions to kind of fill in here. We're gonna keep mixing around. Who's the middle road? Who's our average here? What are you slapping in the middle? And I haven't gone first yet, so I'll go ahead and go here. I think the First Order ends up being in the middle, and my only reason for that is while it is, I think the pieces that it has are good. They're just a little boring. And I think it'll end up being boring in the sense of not a lot of variety. I think it'll end up in the middle at the end because not as many people who normally like to fly First Order will, but those that fly will do decently well. There are some tools to tech against the First Order, but I think in the end, First Order ends up being in the middle. Marcel.
So in my middle, I had the Republic. So I had the Republic in the middle. I think they've got tools to compete. They've got some options. I like the Delta 7s with Delta 7 or with calibrated. I think the I3 Jedis are very flexible, and the fact that like Ryan said earlier, you can put a LAT to back up some Delta 7s. You can throw Shock T or another support to back up the calibrated, and you have 4 calibrated with token stacking. Their initiative kind of hurts a little bit, and they also get access to a couple decent tricks with Obi-Wan and Anakin can do that. They can play, right? They can do some stuff. And Rick and Anakin can also do well. I just think that I might even drop them. I'm kind of. Yeah, this is where my bias is coming in because note. I have Rebel right behind them, but I think Rebel will probably end up doing better than Resistance because more people will play Rebel in style of play that the Rebels play, versus to play the Republic just plays completely different, right? When you got Rick, you've got it's just a completely different play style that I think less people play. You guys were saying the A-Wings got their training wheels off. This is the no training wheel, the faction. Like you can't make mistakes with the Republic in extended or hyperspace. You just have to. Well, maybe if you're playing like a Warthog spam list, which you don't get access to in hyperspace. So for me personally, I would put them in the middle for the way that I play. But I think you guys will probably put it further back because you guys play the more tankier, the B-Wings and Tendums and stuff like that of the world, where that's not my style.
Ryan, what you putting in the middle?
I think I'm going to go with the Rebel Alliance. They do have a lot of tools available, that's for sure. They have a lot of archetypes that interest me. But they lack in two other categories that will be filled in by two other factions I will put ahead of them. I actually like. I sometimes think people think Rebels are kind of boring because, by the way, if you haven't noticed, Rebels I think are the only faction that haven't gotten a new ship in second edition at all. They've only gotten re-release ships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the incentive to play something in Rebels is kind of low because there's nothing new to mix in with them just yet. So we'll have to see what happens going forward. But the influx in the card packs helped a little bit. As I mentioned, I do enjoy Leia Falcon. I think that has a very good potential, but good enough to be competitive in multiple list archetypes, but may fall a bit short in some key matchups.
And Will, middle ground.
I also have Rebels as my in my number 4 slot here, and Ryan covered most of it. And I think they're lacking. They have the beef, they have the attack power, right? They have some synergies. They're just really lacking someone to ace fight with, right? Like, they don't have a fun round. They don't have any kind of like Darth Vader or anything. They don't. I think the problem is that they don't really have an ace in the first place. Like even Wedge and Luke aren't great aces. They hit hard, sure, but they just really have no one to fill that role, which is unfortunate because I think they actually got handed a lot of variety on a silver platter, right? Like they got named pilots and generics. Like they got so much potential. They did get a really significantly reduced cast of crew and gunners, which I think is going to hurt the Falcon. But I don't think Falcons really need it. So they have some list variety, and man, their attack power between like Leia and X. Just honestly, I think it's just the generic X-wings that's pushing them into that 4th spot. Generic X-wings are so good.
Alrighty. Well, now we've got the beginning, the middle, and the end. Will, since you're on now, give me the full list.
This is going to be controversial, I'm sure.
Oh, it's going to be great.
So
it's going to be great. And this is what we'll do. Let's get them out there first, and then we can have the arguments. I'm sure everybody in the chat's like, let's go. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with my number 6 spot here, which is Separatist. They lost a lot of big tools. Their main list isn't fantastic. The double fire spread. My number 5 spot is the Republic. They got tools. I don't know if they'll be utilized. I might regret not swapping those two, but Rebels and Republic. I'm a Republic player, or I'm a Rebels diehard. So so that goes to my number 2 and 3 spots, and I'm gonna put Imperials in 2nd and First Order in 3rd. While Imperials do lack an ace, they got Mauler and Skurg. Their generics and their chassis alone are just so far beyond like the other generics and chassis in hyperspace, except for a couple of things. But that generic efficiency, I think, is really going to push them above the First Order and all the other factions there. So let me double check your screen here because I was just looking at my own notes. Yep. Scum, Empire, FO, Rebels, Republic, Separatist, Resistance.
All right, I'll go next. Okay, so I will say for mine, I'm taking a bit of a gamble. This is my attempt to end up being right accidentally. Okay, by taking a bit of a stretch here. I'll go from the backside as well. I rated Resistance last. My next one is going to end up being Republic. I know that there's some good squads out there. I think, though, the Republic we end up seeing is a lot of people trying to bring ACTA 2s or ETA 2s, and they only have 3 health, and that is a liability if you don't know how to fly it. So, we could see some of those Jedi go pop, pop, pop pretty quick. After that, Empire in the 5 slot for me. I know, again, they have a lot of tools, and honestly, I really like the TIE V1s and the TIE X1s, but I have a feeling that a lot of our normal Imperial players will end up shifting over to one of our other factions, namely First Order, if they really want to fly the aces, or into what I think is going to end up being my number 2 spot faction, which, spoilers, we'll get there in a minute. In the middle, I did put the First Order. Next, I have the Rebel Alliance. Consistency got them into my top 3. Rebel consistency. X-Wings, Y-Wings, Rebel Synergy equals just solid lists. And even though they're basically combos that have been around forever, if players want a consistent list in hyperspace, they will go with the Rebellion. And last but not least, I am feeling good about the Separatist fire sprays. People like stuff that is good. And double fire sprays is good, and people will fly it. I think that's just don't. This has anything to do with the fact that 066 in the Scimitar is in hyperspace. This is nothing to do with them. This is completely the Django and friends making the Separatist number 2 in my rankings. Alrighty. Let's hit Marcel.
Okie doke. So let's go from the back to the front. So I'm gonna throw that consistency at number 6. So let's take your Rebels and throw them at number 6. Then I'm gonna take the Empire. Throw those. I'll throw that down there, and behind the Republic. Yeah. Now, again, the last 3 I think are
no hedging. Come on, no hedging. Come on.
They're like right on each other. All right. So then number what is that? Number 3.
Number 3.
Throw the Separatist, because of Django and Zam. And those ships are good, and those ships are fun, and people will fly them. And you can also take a bunch of Trade Federation drones still. And number 2, I'm gonna throw the Resistance. You people hating on my Resistance. Even if I have to be the only one flying those stupid things, they're gonna make some noise.
All right, and Ryan.
I'm gonna start top down because I'm gonna flip flop back and forth on my 6 and 5 spots. So number 2, gonna go with the Separatist. While yes, I agree, plenty of people have been jumping on the fire spray train. Swarms are still effective if people jump on them and find the right combination correctly. Pro tip: tri-fighters don't like being alone; they like being with friends with network calculate. So I don't recommend trying out Django and Zan with 2 or 3 tri-fighters. I don't think it works very well. Stick with double fire spray. Stick with fire spray plus many dudes, or many dudes across the board. And then I'm going to go with Republic. So as I alluded to when I talked about Rebels, it was lacking in a certain department, and that was the token efficiency across the board, with both Separatists being the network calculation sharing and Count Dooku force on stuff like Jango or Zam, which is much scarier. Dooku on those platforms right now, and then the Republic bringing all that force everywhere across the board, many of it, huge force pool. Can never count out as much passive mods as they have, along with the lats providing those rerolls. So plenty of potential to raise that floor as a faction. Now, granted, ETAs, not a lot of health pool available in them, so people are going to have to be careful. And I can definitely see some results going a little poorly for them because some people who aren't careful enough get those ETAs in bad spots too often. But I think it will be very effective as a faction. Now, this is where I waffle back and forth on because there's slight biases as more of a resistance player, but I'm not sure how many people are really going to invest into Empire as the new face they are right now. They don't have the races that they're used to. They are going to have to look into generics, whether it's a bunch of the same ships or a bunch of combination of mixed things. If we're going purely off of results, I think you're going to see better results out of Empire, so we'll put them at 5. And then we'll put Resistance at 6.
Okay, so especially for our audio only listeners, let's just do a quick read down of each of our rankings, starting with Will, and in order from the best to the worst prediction ranking, faction rankings here for Hyperspace.
All right, so I ranked Scum, Empire, First Order, Rebels, Republic, Separatist, and then last, then Resistance.
Ryan.
I have Scum, Separatist, Republic, Rebel Alliance, Galactic Empire, Resistance, and First Order.
Marcel.
I have Scum, the only one to get Resistance right, then Separatist, Republic, Empire, Rebel, and Kylo.
And then for myself, I have Scum first, second Separatist, third Rebellion, fourth First Order, fifth Empire, sixth the Republic, and last, and certainly the least, the Resistance. Alrighty, that's where we're at. Now, just looking at the chart, I know our audio friends can't quite see it, but just a couple of very obvious clusters that kind of happened. And so all of us, of course, we all think Scum is on top. And we'll see if people prove us right there. We have a small cluster of Separatists near the top when it comes to Ryan, Marcel, and myself between second and third place. Then a focus here in the 5 slot of Empire with a big dissension from Will 2 times here. Will put Empire much higher than everybody else, and Separatists much lower than everyone else, and Rebels kind of all over the place. The other ones are all kind of scattered, but I'm excited to see how we do. I always really like doing these way too early rankings, and in our upcoming episodes, as we continue to talk about how Hyperspace and how different lists will affect the Flight Club Championships, which, by the way, again, tickets are available now. GoldSquadronPodcast.com. I want to see how we end up being, how right or wrong we end up being. And we're going to be revisiting our ship rankings as well, because I know you guys love to argue with us on those. I think those are some of people's favorite episodes, when they can tell us how wrong we are. And that's what makes it all fun. All right, let's now head into our lists of the week. Hopefully you enjoyed that discussion. We need to zoomy through these. Let me go ahead and get ready for that one. Who's got our first list of the week? Who's taking it first? Panic.
I'll go.
I'll go. All right, Marcel.
All right. So I had from Garrus 90901. Wasn't that like a TV show?
I think that's just. I think it's just the date got squished next to that, so I think it's just Garrus 909.
And then we've got so he says he normally runs 5 X-Wings or something like that, like 5 X-Wing styles, looking to change this up a little bit. So he put together a 5 Karax fighter, and then he has 15 points left as well. What would we do? So he was literal when he says 5 X-Wings or something like that, because 5 Karax is basically 5 X-Wings, but worse.
No, those S foils make a huge difference, man.
They do. I mean, just the ability to boost when you really want to is a big deal. I mean, you can throw contraband on them to give them a free K turn, I guess, once, or a free turnaround once. But yeah, that focus boost when you really need it is a big deal. But anyway, let's make these Karax better than the X-Wing. So let's start off by getting some points in there. So let's start with dropping 2 of those Karax fighters. Actually, drop them all. Leave 1 only.
What? What?
I feel like he's breaking the
me.
purpose of the
Nuke
list.
that list.
No. Just trust me. It'll make it easier on you.
Just
Just trust me.
the guy's like, I got 15 points. Marcel, destroy the whole thing.
It's not gonna be that destroyed. All right. Bring that cartel up to the I3.
Okay. The Black Sun Ace.
Yeah, and then put marksmanship on them.
All right.
Just get a couple crits in there, and then copy them twice. Please, yeah, I still got 3 in there. And now we're just gonna do the obvious. We're throw a Z95 in there, and
Cool.
let's put the I3 in there also, just so they can all move and shoot together.
Yep.
And I think you know what to do with that guy. Let me see.
Thread tracers.
And
And
let's make fun of me.
thread tracers and the false transponder codes.
There you go. There you go. And then copy that guy. And then give me 1 more Z95 the same way. And we're going to take the false transponders off
Yep.
and throw an ion missile on there. So now you have 6 ships shooting at initiative 3. All of them have the potential of rolling 3 dice. You've got the potential to do an ion missile on one of them, and then the Black Suns again. If you line up a bullseye, you get the marksmanship is just bonus. You have an extra 4 points, so you can actually do some other stuff with it. You can throw a couple. I don't know what you would do with it. I was tossing around between the ion missile and the marksman and getting some contrabands or something in there, but I think this is fine. This gets everybody shooting 3 dice. Everybody's a danger, and there's no good target priority in this list, and it puts out a lot of damage, and it puts it out at night 3. So those 5A wings, if you run into the not 5A wings, if you run into the 5X wings, you'll probably delete 1 before it ever shoots, or delete 1 and put some damage into another one.
All right.
Now, as a side note, just real quick, if you want to get a little bit more fun, you can swap out that final Black Sun 1 with the shuttle that is the I3 shuttle that lets you park on a rock and still be able to shoot.
The Outer Rim Pioneer, I think is what it is.
Yeah. That way you can get some coordinations out there, but I'd rather have the ion missile.
Okay. Ryan, you were ready to go?
Yes.
List of the week.
Do you want me to go ahead and say it? Or?
Yep. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So this list comes from Sean Sapone, or Sapone, not sure which. Basic ideas: be unpredictable in dropping bombs. Consider taking it to a Flight Club qualifier. So this is an extended list utilizing the probably new-ish favorite Phantom. I feel like Echo's being taken more than Whisper these days, but we have Echo, Crack Shot, Collision Detector, Targeting Computer. Then we have Major Vermeil with the Marge Sable Closure for that advanced ailerons trigger, or the ailerons trigger, I would assume. Sienna Ree, a lot of people may not be too familiar with this, so I'll read this one down. It is a crew upgrade, 6 points. Restrictions: it needs a coordinate action in Galactic Empire. After you perform a coordinate action, if the ship you coordinated perform a barrel or boost, it may gain 1 stress token to then rotate 90 degrees. Hasn't seen a lot of play, but has some interesting fun. Then we have 2 Scimitar Squadron pilot TIE bombers, both with barrage rockets, thermal detonators, and skilled bombardier for that wide net of bomb dropping. So some interesting bomb tricks here, but I think what I want to narrow it down to is I don't think Sienna Ree has proven worth as much as what I think I can put together here. And with only Echo likely shooting before Major Vermeil, his ability really isn't triggering that often anyway. So let's go to an old favorite. Let's first get rid of Marge Sable and Sienna Ree for now, and drop to Captain Faroff. And with that there, we have 10 points available. We're only 1 point away, but let's get rid of the skilled bombardiers just for now in general. And let's take Papa Palpatine, the Faroff Palpatine combination. I think if you're not taking 5th Brother Gunner on Echo, it's very valuable to provide that force charge somewhere being Palpatine for Echo. Phantoms, especially Echo and Whisper specifically as named ones, have gotten too it's too valuable to not have. It's too valuable to have a force charge to not bring it. I know Sienna Ree has tricks. Vermeil has a very accurate shot when the opportune moment is there. But for consistency's sake, we have Captain Faroff and Emperor Palpatine. And we only have 3 points left. We could put just 1 skilled bombardier on one of the bombers and roll with that. Or we could put delayed fuses on both of them, which has value. Thermal detonators with that nimble bomber ability already covers a lot of ground. The value of the 3 bank sure is there, but is it needed? I don't know. So I kind of just, you know what, leave that 3 points up to the user. If you want to throw delayed fuses on there, cool. If you want to throw 2 delayed fuses on there, the bombers and Marge Sable, put that back on Faroff, go ahead. I might lean more towards putting hull upgrade on Faroff and leaving the bombers cheaper with thermal det and barrage rockets only. So that'll be my final take on it, is Scimitar Squadron bomber, 2 of them, each with barrage rocket thermal detonators, Faroff with Palpatine and hull upgrade, and Echo with crack shot, collision detector, and targeting computer.
All right, and last but not least, take it away, Will.
All right, this one comes from Kyle the Scout,
which I think Kyle the Scout's in the chat right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he gave me a shout out. He's a pretty cool guy. Anyways, he says, "Oh, let me do the intro here." It says, "Muse stays close to Tavson, removing stress, allowing Tavson to 0 stomp multiple turns in a row to keep the big gun arc on target." Firing big dice pools. It's got a bunch of upgrades here that are going to ensure the damage is maximum. Even has some support abilities between his coordinate and a Terex crew. And then obviously Kylo the faction here coming in strong with that. So the original list reads as such. As I said, Kylo and Muse are in the list. And then Lieutenant Tavson has Advanced Optics, Agent Terex, Perceptive Co-Pilot, and Advanced sensors. That's a 94-point Tavson, and that concerns me. I'll tell you why. Like as big as his arc is, as a large base, as powerful as that, I mean, it's gonna probably be like 3 or 4 every time, right? Like with the advanced optics and a focus, you're probably gonna do something there. But he's only I3, and he's pretty slow. And you have no turnaround. So once you make that initial, good shot, you might get a second one, maybe a range one or something, a follow-up attack. But if you're just sitting there, people are just going to keep flying. They're going to fly right past you. Pick off Muse quick, ruin the synergy, and then once they're behind you, once they're behind Tavson, Kylo can only do so much. So let's first by just nuking all those upgrades. So it's a 200-point list. You take all those upgrades out, we're at a 170-point list. I like that a lot more. Now that we're not relying on stopping a whole bunch, as cool as Muse is, especially with Proud Tradition, infinite sloops there, not needed anymore. So we're going to drop that. And I think this is really, when First Order came out, this was really the base of a lot of my lists. Tavson, Kylo, plus. And you really can fit a lot into there. Depending on what kind of chassis you prefer, you can fit Blackout, or actually, I guess you can't fit Blackout. You can fit Rush. You can fit Quick Draw, Phasma. There's a lot of good ships who could fill into that last role, depending on do you want somebody fast or do you want a heavy hitter like Quick Draw? But my personal favorite is the Time BA Interceptor Hollow. And I said a bunch of things. Put in that Hollow. That's the one we're going with. That's my personal take. Gonna slap the Proud Tradition on it right away. And that leaves us with 4 points. So the reason I like Hollow is that it does provide another ace, but it also provides a second support ship. Now, if your Kylo gets strung out alone, you can not only coordinate with Tavson, but you can also sling and evade to him from Hollow. It doesn't always have to be bad tokens. You can sling a good token to one of your friends, especially if Tavson coordinated that evade, and you get to decide at the start of combat who's in bigger threat. Is it Hollow or is it Kylo to pass that or not? The other big thing I love is that you can pass strain tokens. For those not familiar, Hollow's ship ability says after you fully execute a maneuver, if you're not depleted or strained, you may gain 1 depleted strain to perform a target lock or barrel roll action. So you take the strain and you sling it to Tavson, because you actually want people to shoot Tavson here, because you don't want them shooting your aces. So that way, Tavson can get that focused target lock. He can do mid-combat coordinating, which is crazy. Moving, boosting barrel rolling Kylo in combat is crazy. So I think there's an extreme amount of synergy between Hollow and Tavson rounding out the list. Now, you do have 5 points, which has potential just for a bid. I mean, you got 2 I-5 double repositioned ships out there. So not terrible. My honorable mentions, if it wasn't bid, would be ion missiles on Hollow, because he's taking locks anyways. The Captain Phasma crew on Tavson makes sure everyone at range 1 is stressed. That really helps to prevent people from K-turning behind you. You also have options like biohex codes, hyperspace tracking, which is not utilized a lot. But if you're only deploying at I3, you can actually go up to I6, maybe get an alpha strike on somebody, because you do got 5 forward boost on your ships.
Well,
and even
think of the buoys on Tavson.
That's what I was going to. That was my last honorable mention was the buoys. You're going to bring gas clouds anyways, because Kylo loves them. But you post them up hidden amongst big gas clouds. That's another way for you to utilize the target locks. But once you go buoys, though, I think you need to also bring biohexacrypt codes. The combination of like jamming mid-combat and really giving Tavson something to do when he's not in combat, right? When he's just flying around. Like, at least you can lock something like Kylo or Hollow and jam it. Or don't jam them. Coordinate them. Coordinate them from long range while you're making that big, hard to loop around. So you actually have quite a few options for them. I mean, obviously extreme maneuvers. So like that 5 points is really, really, what do I want to say? Acceptable? That's not really right, but there's so much that you could do with those last 5 points. Even panel analyzer on Hollow, so you can K-turn, focus lock. So that's what I'm talking about. Again, I mean, you got 2i5 double repositions, so you might just take it as a bid. It also keeps your upgrade simple too. So I would run it with Tavson naked, Kylo naked, well, shirtless, I guess, and Hollow with Proud Tradition at 195. Kyle, what you think? Oh, hate? Sure. Kyle likes hate. Makes sense.
Alrighty, I want to remind everybody that you can submit a list for List of the Week on our Discord. Simply find the Submissions Only tab in our Discord and post it in there. Also, we do keep a running record of our updates to List of the Week, so you guys can find them there. I post them every 2 to 3 weeks. You can go ahead and check them out. Now, one of the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about today, which we'll get to in a future episode, is today there was a live stream re-announcing and basically reintroducing the High Republic Publishing Initiative. I believe the first books come out this week. There was in this video, they had art for a couple of ships I did notice. I'm not sure if you guys were looking too closely at that, but I thought that was really, really cool. This is one of the starfighters that they end up showing. I'm assuming this is a Jedi starfighter of some kind. You can see that there's an astromech in there. I know for those of us who are just listening, you can't see it, but it kind of looks like a part of a V-Wing kind of inspired, but there's definitely some new shapes in there. Like V-Wing and a V-19 had a baby. It's kind of what I see in there. But yeah, it's a new ship. Also, if you go back just a little bit, there's 2 kids. Let me mute this so that we don't get demonetized. Where was it at? There's 2 kids riding a gonk droid. So I need to see that as a ship as well at some point in there it is. Oh, I just missed it. Whatever. Okay, but anyway, the High Republic is coming to the Star Wars universe, and I'm really excited. I think it's gonna open up a lot of things. And the question that I want to talk about when we hit it is, how do we think the introduction of the High Republic will affect X-Wing? And I think after I read some of the books and get a little bit more knowledge, we could talk a little bit about it. So should be fun. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I want to remind you guys that if you are interested in participating in the Gold Squadron Paint Wars, applications will be accepted up until February 1st, looking for skilled and experienced painters. Now, I will say it was really funny. On Facebook when I was making some posts, some people like in the painting channel being like, oh man, I wish I was good enough to do this. And I would like click on their profile and look at some of their minis, and they do great work. And they're like, I don't think I'm good enough to participate in this. You don't know unless you apply. Okay. Let me put it out that like the only person who can prevent you from applying is yourself. And it literally doesn't cost you anything to be a part of it.
Just do it.
That's right. That's right. And yes, the info is on the Gold Squadron podcast website. You can see it right here under Paint Wars on the top bar right there, Paint Wars. And like we've been talking about, the Gold Squadron Flight Club Championship. Tickets are on sale now. First qualifier happening January 23rd. Looking forward to see what people fly there. And of course, you know, it happens every time. The first qualifier has the least amount of people, and then it builds up all the way until we get to that last qualifier, and then that one usually ends up getting sold out. So don't be left in the dust because you waited too long. So make sure to take advantage now early, see where you rank, and see if you need to add more qualifiers later, rather than being like, I only took one shot at it, when you could have multiple bites at the apple if you need it. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging out. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday for our Gold Squadron Flight Club weekly stream. I'm going to be posting matchups for that tonight. So watch out if you are one of those Wednesday night stream players who have that role on Discord. Look for a tag here pretty soon. It could be you. Thanks for watching. Be smart. Be safe. Gold Squadron out.